Okay, this is the in-depth analysis portion of episode 45, Assassin's Creed and Freedom. And for those of you just joining us, our intro section was pretty awesome. We talked about some cool stuff, a couple cool studies, a couple like kind of big news items. So yeah, I encourage you to check it out if you have the time. It's pretty cool. But for those of you who
Right.
don't feel like doing that, that's okay. This is the in-depth analysis portion. This is where we get into kind of the mm, the deeper part. Deeper part?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where we talk about Assassin's Creed. Now, why are we doing Assassin's Creed this week?
Because of that hitman we hired for my wife,
Yes, exactly. It
right?
seems thematic.
Because it's July 4th, and one of the Assassin's Creed has to do with colonial times. A new one, right? Unity?
Yeah, and all of these trope of freedom and revolution and fighting tyranny and just really because, that was a joke. You're supposed to laugh there. Now
Oh,
people think I'm
sorry.
racist.
Your microphone went out for like the entire minute. I didn't hear any of that. Let's restart this section.
Nice.
Okay, here we'll hold on. We'll do it again. All right, welcome to the in-depth analysis portion of episode 45, Assassin's Creed and Freedom. And this is the portion where we get kind of in-depth and talk about the actual subject matter the earlier portion, the point one version. We talk about the intro, and we kind of just talk a little bit. We talk about what's in the news, and I reviewed a couple cool little studies and some neuroscience, and we talked about some big things in the news. You might want to check it out. But for those of you who don't have time, that's okay. Welcome. This is the meat and potatoes. So,
Right.
David.
We're talking about Assassin's Creed
Yes, Assassin's Creed. Why Assassin's Creed?
because it's the 4th of July and it's all about freedom and the American way. So Assassin's Creed, how does that fit with freedom?
Well, the new game Unity, that one is going to be in the colonial era, right? Like where the fight for independence.
The
Is
new
that
game's
correct?
going to be in the French Revolution, which was inspired by the
French.
American Revolution in some ways.
You're welcome, France.
Well,
The one and
enjoy
only
your
time our
bloody...
culture influenced them.
Yeah, yeah, and did not end well.
Oh, David. Speaking of which, I can't wait till you get down here. Okay, so people down here correct me every time I say it. Let's say you see this word, Lafayette. How do you pronounce that?
Oh, Lafayette.
Yeah. No, it's not. Actually, it's Lafayette. Wrong.
Oh,
It's
Lafayette.
Lafayette. Yeah.
I
So
see.
they
I
correct me
see.
every time down here because there's a county called Lafayette, and it's named
Yeah,
after the general who came from
General
France.
Lafayette, right.
Who what did he do?
He was Washington's best buddy, and he like brought an entire French Navy with him to help us fight off the British.
Yeah, and he's the father of drill and ceremony, which in the military is like everything that makes us look fancy, where we march and we do half or right face, that kind of thing. Anything that like makes us look orderly, that's that guy. So they
Yeah.
named a lot of places after him, especially down here because this was like the French kind of area for a while. So it's definitely Lafayette, and whenever I say like, oh yeah, Lafayette, and they're like, no, Lafayette, it's Lafayette.
Lafayette.
That was correct.
Lafayette.
It's pretty.
That's
Pretty
annoying. But that's kind of French Revolution. They've also done the American Revolution. They've done a recurring theme of kind of revolution and freedom and like overthrowing tyranny because and that's what the 4th of July is all about because America is the only country that has freedom.
Yep, and it's not free.
No,
Freedom is not free.
I hate when people say, "Oh, I thank God I live in America, the country that has freedom." And I was like, Belgium has freedom. Like, lots of countries have freedom. It's not like a thing that's only here.
Yeah, and like, what does that mean? I'm always like, what does that mean? They're like, well, right to free speech, and I'm like, do you think that in Europe, like, you should go visit? Just do you think if you walk around, if you're like, I don't really care for this government, you think they're gonna be like, get it, come here, and throw you? It's not North Korea. There's like, there's very few places that penalize you for that.
You see that map of like the world as Americans see it, and it's like America, freedom's here, and then like it's just like super ignorant things about the rest of the world.
Yeah, dude, and I'm bad at geography. Like I'll say that outright because people are like, where Cambodia is down around there, and I'm like, I do not know where Cambodia is. No, I do not know where that is. So
Yeah,
I'm bad, but at least like I give people the benefit of the doubt that they're probably not inferior just because they're not America.
yeah, I feel like like I always say with the Mark Twain quote, like travel is anathema to prejudice. I always am like, oh, you've never left the country. Yes, America is the greatest country on earth, in your experience.
And yes, my sample size is N of 1.
Like I love America, and it sounds like I trash it sometimes because we do a lot of dumb things. I love my country, but I'm not gonna be like America's the best country on earth because I was born there.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
yeah,
it is the
so
4th of July, so go America and Assassin's Creed.
yeah, I love America, man. Obviously, I was a soldier for a while. That was fun. There's good parts. There's good parts, but a lot of it is yeah, it just doesn't. Some people like really fit that lifestyle well, and they're just like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I got it. But not me.
I think with us it's more we tend to kind of bristle against anything that's like uncontemplative enthusiasm,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it's like this is the best thing ever. Like we hate like this is the best game ever things when they're like why do you like it? Because it's awesome.
yeah.
I just apply that to everything, not just games. Like
Mm. And you broke up there for a little bit, but also it's more like a little more socialistic. So like you don't get by on your own. Um, kind of how awesome you are. So like it's not based on job performance, like how you get prestige and power and money in the military. It's most of it is like time. You're just not available for an upgrade for it until you've been in a certain number of years, certain time and rank kind of thing, which is a little frustrating for people who try to perform very well and then you're performing way better than the people above you and you still have to take orders from them. But anyway, are you back? Is your mic working okay?
I guess I don't know. Should I
Uh,
just unplug my mic and have crappy sound quality?
let's see if it messes up again. Sorry guys, this is the third week in a row we've had bad sound quality. Can you believe that?
Here's the thing. I'm not with my computer. My computer has good equipment for recording, but I'm not there anymore. I'm still on vacation, so I apologize.
Uh, yeah, sorry, especially because the people who came over from D20 Radio, our new family network, they're getting a bad sample here. Because normally, we're normally on the ball, but sorry about this last few weeks. Anyway, yeah. So freedom, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just complaining about it's it's uncontemplative enthusiasm that I kind of stand up against. So
Hmm.
it's people are like, this is the best game ever because I love it. Meh, give me some reasons. This is the best country ever because I was born here. Not a good reason. Like I think America's great, but I want you to tell me why it's great. Don't just tell me like it's the best.
Yeah, that's like a Grand Theft Auto. I have yet to ask someone, or Halo. I've yet to ask someone who really likes that game. Which if you like the game, that's fine. I don't really care for them, but it's not like I don't think that they're bad. Okay, I think Halo's a bad game, but but typically it's not that, and I don't think I'm right whenever my evaluation of that. I just think that that's my kind of relationship to Halo and to Grand Theft Auto. But I don't. I guess what I'm saying is that I have yet, whenever somebody's like, no, it's a really good game, I've yet to meet someone who could explain to me why. Like I'm like, why? I'm like open world. I'm like, you mean like Skyrim? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, Skyrim did it better. And they're like, okay, yeah, but and you could do anything you want. And I'm like, you mean like Skyrim or literally any other open world game ever? And they're like, yeah, but and it's funny. And I'm like funny, like Stick of Truth, like South Park. And they're like, well, not that funny, but it's funny. And I'm like, so it's kind of funny. They're like, yeah, kind of funny and kind of open world. Yeah. Okay, what else? Ah. There's three main characters, like every Final Fantasy ever? Yeah, but this is like you can switch between them. Okay, that is kind of cool. Anything else? You could drive cars like every open world game ever? Yeah, yeah. I don't get it.
But
It
but
that
how's the car?
enthusiasm,
How do the cars control? Oh, really shitty. You're gonna crash into everything. That
Oh,
doesn't sound very fun.
what else? What
Yeah,
else
but
do you
there's
do in the
guns.
game?
Oh, are
Well,
the guns
you
good?
shoot. Yeah, yeah. And how's the targeting reticle on that? Oh, it is the worst. It is the worst. They even admitted when 4 came out, they said this our shooting is not what makes the game good. Like they know that it sucks. They fixed it in GTA 5 a little bit. They tinkered with it, but because they knew it sucked so bad. So it's not that. It's not shooting or driving, which is the whole point of the game. So what is it? But anyway, I'm sure
Right.
that there's fun things about it, but I have yet to find the people who can identify them.
So Assassin's Creed, like
Yes.
it's an interesting series, it's an interesting franchise because when does it take place?
Well, two different times.
Yeah. They use what's called a framing device, right? Well, they'll have a story and then a story within the story, like a meta story.
Oh, right, yeah. So you get in the anima, and anima is like this machine that you kind of lie down in, and it taps your genetic memories, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that before we go any further because genetic memories. How does Assassin's Creed think genetic memory works?
I don't know. It's kind of vague, isn't it? When it explains it, it says like it's
Yeah,
stored in
it's
your DNA. Okay, so
yeah,
it
like
took the thing
everything
from
you ever
Dawkins, right?
experienced in life.
Like,
Do what?
Dawkins talked about genetic memory, but like in a real way. Did,
Yeah, like
you
not a
know?
Lamarckian way.
Yeah, yeah, and these guys kind of, I think, took that tagline, genetic memories, and they were like, oh, really? And like, went crazy with it.
Oh, so
Maybe.
that's what RNA does. Yeah, they think it's like a
Yeah,
hard drive. Like
yeah,
everything any of your ancestors have ever experienced is somewhere in your RNA or DNA.
yeah. Which there's actually two funny little studies about that. One of which you brought to my attention, right? Can't remember.
The
Oh yeah,
cherry
yeah, the
blossoms of the
rats.
mice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that about?
Okay,
Genetic
so
memories.
and this one was kind of new to me because I was like, genetic memories, what? And I always think of like this Lamarckian thing. You know, like Lamarck was the guy who thought giraffes had long necks because their parents like stretched their necks so much that eventually their kids had long necks.
Yeah. Lamarck was a
To reach
Frenchman,
those.
wasn't
He was, but that did not help him from being wrong in that instance.
he? Yeah.
But they did a team at Emory University School of Medicine,
Mhm.
and they took these mice and they were trained to fear kind of a cherry blossom smell.
Mhm.
And their grandchildren had that same aversion without being trained to fear cherry blossoms. What they found
So,
out was that they looked inside the sperm and they saw that their DNA was actually changing as they learned to fear cherry blossom smells, and that was passed on to their offspring.
well, are you sure it said changing their DNA, or did it say something
That
about epigenetics?
Yeah, they called it a transgenerational epigenetic inheritance.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so basically, what would happen is they showed that section of DNA responsible for sensitivity to cherry blossom scent, and it was more active in the sperm of the mice that they trained.
Yeah, so I've talked about epigenetics a little bit, and this is really important because people ask why psychology is important, and they think, oh, well, neuroscience kind of covers stuff like that. And I'm like, not really, actually. Neuroscience is awesome. I love neuroscience. Very fascinating, very cool. But it doesn't talk about, or our specialty as psychology is to, okay, we're informed on how the organism is informed by its environment and how we learn and change ourselves both physically and mentally, right? Mentally is
Hmm.
just is just a byproduct of physical. So we say mentally for, kind of, I don't know, solidarity's sake, but really it's physically. Like, how do we as a body change and learn from our environment? Now, epigenetics is really important because it was considered a bunk science 10 years ago because people were like, that's not a real thing, no way. And, psychology people were like, actually, it kind of seems like that. It kind of seems like that's what's happening to people. And people are like, no way is epigenetics a real thing. Well, in the last 10 years, obviously, they found out it was. And all it means is this, like, your DNA is written, sure, but you've also got these other things that they thought were junk DNA for a while. Turns out there's no such thing as junk DNA. But you've got these little, like, other chemicals that mess with your DNA, and not mess with it, but show which one's going to be expressed at which time. So imagine you have like a big old spool full of DNA, right?
Hmm.
Well, which one? No, no. Better yet, you've seen those old timey cameras with like the little things that go, like that noise, whatever that is, reels.
Hmm.
That's kind of like your DNA.
Hmm.
The part that's being shown in the projector is which DNA is being expressed, and epigenetics is what tells is the coding or information that tells the projector which slides to play at that time. That's epigenetics. And it's really important because it tells you what part of your DNA is going to be expressed. Well, what informs that? Your environment. So as it turns out, psychology is absolutely pertinent here. In fact, it's mandatory to understand how epigenetics comes into play. So that's what was going on here is that that DNA code was being wound up on the reel basically, right? It wasn't being expressed, it wasn't being highlighted, it wasn't being activated until it became necessary because the environment demanded it. Then it was like, oh, okay, so it popped up, and then they passed that on, that epigenetic coding that says, hey, next time put this film on play or whatever, or these the 5 scenes that have to do with cherry blossoms, make sure those pop up. So that's what it did.
Right.
So epigenetics is like
Yeah.
super important. So when people talk about like, oh, I've got a genetic disorder, I'm like, well, the way that works is this: you may, and everyone around you may have that, right? have that in them. But epigenetics is the important part. Like what happened prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal, like around birth, because that's when a lot of that stuff's firing off and like being coded. So what happened then? Like, it's pretty important. And also what happened in your environment afterwards, Like that phobia can go away easily through therapy. Easily. Phobia is like that's our bread and butter. That's how we make our money, because we get rid of people. We get rid of phobias quick. But yeah. Anyway, epigenetics. That's how that works. I don't know if
Right.
I think I've already
Well,
talked
they're
about that on
saying
the
that they
podcast.
might find a they're saying that they've seen a rise in neuropsychiatric disorders like obesity, diabetes, metabolic disruptions, and they haven't been looking at it multi
Generational?
generationally. There we go.
That's the word.
So they're starting to look back on generations and saying, what if this is epigenetic? And I don't know, it was interesting to me because I always thought that DNA was like a mutation thing, like when your DNA is copying off during reproduction, when your DNA is doing its copy, sometimes there'll be copy errors, and that's how mutations happen. But like I didn't think that once you were living, you could actually change what gets expressed. Like I didn't know that was a mechanism. So there is something to this generational, genetic memory thing, but it's not.
Right. Well, you cut off there too. But yeah, exactly. Like what is expressed is kind of dictated by your environment and your interactions. What what DNA code is being highlighted or expressed? Yeah. So in other words, it de-emphasizes the importance of genetic influences, and it re-emphasizes the importance of, well, psychology. I mean, anything that like manipulates your environment to change your body. So that's what's so important about epigenetics, and also about this study. And so I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that's how epigenetics works. But a lot of people were excited about that.
Right, but it's not like reliving your birthday party or reliving the time that your ancestor assassinated Napoleon.
Right, genetic memory is just like, yeah, like what was necessary for survival, and is that being expressed? But not like these genetic memories. Like, let me see what happened to I don't know, William Wallace through some generational descendant of his. Right. It's
Right.
pretty funny. Oh, another thing about genetic memory, get this. This is really cool. Okay, so they found out why some memories. Okay, so memories are, it looks like, being expressed by proteins in your neurons. Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard about this. So hopefully you
No.
haven't, unless you know more about it than I have. But basically, it's like neurons. Okay, so whenever you see something memorable, or whenever you see something in general, it pops out these little proteins in one of your neurons. Now, we don't remember everything we see, right? Memory's not perfect.
Right.
So what it does
Mm-hmm.
is, it's like the sensational things we're really attending to, they'll pop out some of these proteins, and they'll get gobbled back up by the cell walls and things like that, unless you come across it multiple times. If you come across it multiple times and those proteins keep getting popped out, well, then they bind to each other and they create a permanent memory, right? Or quasi-permanent. It looks like it's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's why, like, things like when we say, oh, read and reread and reread and reread things, and then you'll remember it. That's why that's happening, is because, yeah, on a cellular level, a neuronal level, um, that's how I remember things, which I thought was pretty cool. So, like, the more times we're exposed to something, the more likely we're going to be to remember it, and now we know the biological basis of that, which is pretty cool.
Right. Now, I'm gonna tell you some of the story for Assassin's Creed.
Okay, story. Your internet got out again, man, or your voice. Hmm.
Oh.
Okay, you're back.
So, how many of the Assassin's Creed games have you played?
That I've beaten or just played?
Just played like the majority of.
Oh, all but the Native American one, so 3.
All right, which is straight to Native
Holy cow,
American
you got
stuff.
out again. Okay,
Oh
say again.
God, help us all.
Just maybe if you unplug your mic and then we just go bad quality. Testing. Hello. All right, so I'll edit this out.